Hello here. Yeah, and this is the first video after Vlogmas has ended. And I'm sitting here without any Christmas stuff behind me. And I want to wrap up the year of 2019 together with you. So it is kind of a end of year review for me. I hope it does not take too long, because I have taken some notes and it looks like it could be a very long video. I hope not, but you will see how long it is. So I would just like to start, in general I want to wrap up some private things, what has happened fandom wise and also cosplay wise. So the year in general, I think for me it was a good year. I can't complain. I had a lot of big things happen this year, and especially in regards to 2018, which was not a good year for me, especially the last half of 2018, because I got really sick to my stomach. Nobody really knows why. It was because probably of what I the general what I ate, my nutrition wasn't good, and because of stress, because of work-related stress and everything, and I completely felt sick and couldn't eat anything really, and it still lasted until the beginning of 2019, where I then finally had the chance to go to a dietary advisor or nutrition consultant or whatever you would call them, and this lady really helped me, because I started really to change my diet completely. This was a big thing in 2019, and I'm still keeping keep this going, although I kind of also am able now, my body accepts when I eat some unhealthy things again. My diet in general is now low sugar and whole grain food and low fat, so it's called in German leichte Vollkost, and I stick to it and I'm really happy with it. And it's a lot of really healthy stuff, which other people would probably not like. That's also what I experienced when I make the food for my family. They don't like it. Yeah, but that's one big thing, and it is a very positive thing for me that I changed now my diet and I'm happy with it and I can live with it. So that's totally what I needed, because the big thing for me in 2019 was definitely my trip to America again, to Walt Disney World, and then to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. And when you're in the Disney parks, you cannot really take care of your diet or anything, and so I was really concerned. But my body at that point already, it was in April, had a good base for accepting again sugar stuff, what you eat when you're in Walt Disney World, because being in Walt Disney World was the most fun experience, one of the most fun experiences of my life. I was there together with one of my best friends, Michi, and we had the times of our life, I don't know, but it was so good. I dreamt of being in Walt Disney World, or generally in the Walt Disney parks again, since I think 2017, when I started getting into all the history stuff around the Disney parks and discovered so many Disney YouTubers, and it was such a blast suddenly being there. I'm from Germany, it's far away from me, and suddenly being there and sitting in those rides and walking around the parks, and that was my highlight, my personal and fandom highlight of this year of 2019. And I also got into ear making before that, so I made my outfits around making those ears, which is another hobby that I acquired this year. I would definitely insert some pictures now from Walt Disney World. Yeah, and right after, really the week after, Star Wars Celebration happened in Chicago. We're always planning our trips to Star Wars Celebration around other holidays, so that was where we combined it together with Walt Disney World, and we just flew over to Chicago, and this was another super big highlight. It was the best convention of the year for me, for sure. it's like Star Wars Celebration. It's been my 5th Star Wars Celebration so far that I've been, and I can't say that which one was the best. They were all different, but this one was especially great because I met so many people that I just knew from online, because all those like cosplayers that I met through like Instagram, which are also Ahsoka cosplayers, or in generally love the Clone Wars, and those people, just to meet them, talk a little bit to them, take a selfie, like very short and brief, but just to see them in person. And also meeting other people which say, hey, I know you from Instagram, or I know your Facebook page, I know your costumes. It was like, okay, so being there in America and people say they know me, kind of strange, but it was like such a good experience. Also with all the panels, everything worked out. For example, sitting, like, I was in the cosplay competition, so that was another big thing, that I was accepted with my costume there, or sitting in the Mandalorian panel, or sitting in the Clone Wars panel, which was probably the most emotional, like, so these like memories will always stay, because I mean, you can also watch that online for sure, but when you're sitting in the room in that moment, well, these memories will always like stay. I also have a lot of memories from the other Star Wars celebrations the years before, so I know that these memories that you make there are special. And yeah, also like for example, just watching the Rise of Skywalker trailer back then, the first one that came out together like with the Sky Talkers, like, which are my favorite podcasters, or then like meeting Savannah and Brian from the Dorky Diva show, like another podcast that I love, like being at the Ahsoka Lives Day amongst all those gorgeous Ahsoka cosplayers, being one of them, meeting Ashley, meeting Dave Filoni there. You can't beat that, really, when you're a Star Wars fan. That's like big thing of 2019. I definitely will insert now pictures from Star Wars Celebration, so you have a little bit of a feeling there. But also other conventions, which are then like German conventions that I visited, were great. I mean, there were still this year some lowlights in case of like conventions, because it was the first time that I was like alone at some days of some conventions, which was not very nice, because then I planned this convention, got the tickets, and then other people said, "Whoa, but we don't have tickets for this day of this convention." Or I had like planned together with another cosplayer and then was not able to come, and I was alone there. So these things were not so nice, but in general, like conventions like the Power of the Force convention was so good, although it is such a small convention, but it's a Star Wars convention as well. For example, I met creature performers there, which are like behind a lot of the newer Star Wars creatures in the movies, like Derek Arnold and Tim Burton. They are, for example, they are like people who wear then those costumes or puppeteer from inside, like creatures like Luggerbeast, or like Argus Six Eyes, or like Pow from Rogue One. Like they are behind those. It was so interesting, and they are also behind some of the Jurassic World dinosaurs, like from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So it was so interesting to meet them there. And it's such a nice convention. I'm really looking forward to it next year. Another highlight that I just wrote down was also like in summer, when my friend Kirshu visited me, and we had like the best days going to flea markets. It was like 2 days, probably the hottest days in Berlin this year, and we went to, I don't know, it was 2 days, and we went to 10 different or 6 or 7 different flea markets in 2 days. That was so fun. Also, like a lot of we were hunting for toys, and then we watched Toy Story 4 in cinema. Like these were so great days. So I had like good summer definitely, and also got more into collecting like vintage toys again. like a lot of flea marketing as well, not only together with Kyushu that day, but the whole summer and already in spring, and also on conventions I got a lot of vintage toys, especially My Little Pony, or I also got like I found Polly Pockets, and I really got into this like vintage girl toy collecting again. And let's like insert some pictures here from like flea market adventures. Yeah, and speaking of My Little Pony, I could also start now with like wrapping up what my like fandoms were like this year. I definitely got back into My Little Pony a lot, especially because of like the Generation 1 My Little Pony that I'm collecting. But I also got into collecting Generation 4, like the Friendship is Magic. I've built up quite a collection without buying anything new. It's all thrifted, which is like it's the best feeling when you get like only like thrifted vintage. I mean, they're not really vintage, they are maybe just some years old, but none of them were bought new. And with acquiring Netflix, I also was able to watch the My Little Pony series again, or not again, but watch it continuously. So it made me like a big My Little Pony fan again this year. Yeah, with like Star Wars as the next like fandom, which I can talk about, is we had a lot of big things, of course, this year, starting with the celebration, with everything that was announced there, with announcements on the D23, which like there will be a Kenobi series, stuff like that. Then we had the first Star Wars series, which is The Mandalorian. It is so good. I could not have been dreamt of in a better way. It is really good. Then for sure now we have the end of the Skywalker saga, so a lot of like the rise of Skywalker, so a lot of big things happened in Star Wars, as well as in the Disney parks. Star Wars was, I mean, I was not there yet, but the Star Wars lands, the Galaxy's Edges, now are open in both parks, like Disneyland and in Walt Disney World. And also now the Rise of the Resistance ride is open, so I'm not there, but when I see those videos on YouTube, it's like as if I'm being there. Is as if I'm experiencing it with them. So it's a big thing like in Star Wars, so definitely something very important there. Yeah, and also like in my personal thing, I'm really happy that I'm still so much into Star Wars, because like years back when I was like a fan of different things or series or whatever, sometimes it changed through the years that I was not interested so much in it anymore. But with Star Wars, it's continuously, I'm always, there's so much new things to get to know, especially just when it's books or comics. There's so much that you can go and dive into, and I hope that stays for the next years as well. Regarding what I wrote down is, for example, another fandom of mine is Jurassic Park and dinosaurs. It was a really low year, let's say, for anything Jurassic Park. We didn't have much. We had the short movie like Bella Big Rock, but I can't say much other than that I got a lot of some like vintage Jurassic Park toys, which is nice, but other than I did not build up my collections much more. And this part with Disney, I mean, I already told you that I was in Walt Disney World, and I'm such a sucker for everything Disney parks and Disney YouTubers, watching them and all that stuff. I also watched like 2 like Disney movies in cinema, which I normally don't do. So I was watching Toy Story 4, which is like probably the best Disney movie for me this year. And I also watched like Frozen 2, which is good, except for I was not so much into the music. Yeah, I'm not into the Disney live action remakes, so I have no idea about Lion King and Aladdin that we had this year. Can't talk about this, or Mary Poppins, which is not a remake, but have not watched this. Another thing which also belongs to Disney, it's kind of like everything's Disney, Star Wars is also Disney, so okay, the My Little Pony stuff was not Disney, but one thing that I also got into this year is like with Marvel, is the MCU. I know I'm like super late in the game because after watching Endgame in cinema, I was like, okay, now I can't ignore the MCU anymore. I need to a little bit more get into it. I mean, I had watched several movies before. I also had watched Infinity War the year before, and some movies here and there, Doctor Strange, one of the Thor movies before and stuff. But then I was like, okay, Michi's one of my best friends. You have a lot of them on DVD and Blu-ray, right? Can I just borrow some of them? And I did that, and some of them were on Netflix. And then I watched it from the beginning, chronologically. I watched all the MCU movies, and that made like this wow factor that I'm now really also into that. Yesterday I just rewatched Thor Ragnarok, for example, and I'm a big fan or big sucker for Guardians of the Galaxy. Like everything with them is like, I even got like comics from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm really intrigued with like Marvel comics, which is kind of a very different thing from the MCU. It was like mind-blowing when I saw them the X-Men interact with the Guardians, or then like Venom being in there, and Ant-Man flying with the Guardians and stuff like that. It was like, what? And also those Infinity Stone stories from the comics were like, and Wolverine has one of the stones, and okay, that's a completely different thing, and I have no idea how I will get into that or not. But I'm really intrigued and have some comics, and I definitely looking forward being more of a Marvel fan a little bit. I will definitely not become such a big fan of the MCU or Marvel as I'm, for example, for Star Wars. Yeah. And another big thing, which is like this year, I got a new computer, so I was able to edit videos again. So I started this off with like the Vlogmas series in December, so really happy how that went. And concerning cosplays, I think I did not make so many new cosplays this year. I think it was still a successful cosplay year for me. Felt good, but I also wore a lot of costumes again, which were older, which is totally fine, because, you know, as someone who's like working a lot, like just a normal job, and now starting YouTube again and stuff like that, you just have so much time for cosplays, and a lot of cosplays, you know, which are very like detailed and stuff, they eat up a lot of your time. So I think I made like just in the beginning of the year, I'll most often make like big costumes, because you have several several months before the first convention starts, which is most often the book fair in Leipzig. But this year I just made one new costume for me, but two for Michi. You know, I made Padme for me. For Michi I made Mina Bonteri. For Michi I also made the Senator Ryo Chuchi cosplay. Like two new Ahsoka costumes, which are not built from scratch because I already had the headpieces and some of the other stuff. So I made the new Ahsoka poncho from the episode How to Catch a Jedi. Made the season 7 Ahsoka jumpsuit. It's actually not the worst like count that I have when it comes to cosplay, especially because, like, for example, the poncho I had not even planned in the beginning of the year. It was just something like, hi, I could make that. So it took me just like 4 days when I made this. I also made like two dream cosplays this year, which were like planned for several years already, which is Jessie from Toy Story, and which is Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, the blue dress. Be able to really now craft and sew and make these costumes and to wear them to conventions was like a big thing, because this was in my mind like already that I want to do them for several years, as I said. And I also wore a lot of like older costumes and had great shootings with them. For example, my Ellie Sattler cosplay, which I had shootings in the Universal Studios, Halloween cosplay, which I had like great photos at Celebration, or I also wore my Ahsoka, like the book cover version, again two different conventions, although there was a cosplay which I made the year before. And I also wore my Endor or Ewok dress Leia again. So I definitely will also continue wearing older costumes again next year. It's not like sure, and I'm really comfortable with some of my older costumes. So I did not wear any of my Twi'lek cosplays like this year. I did not wear Hera, and I also did not wear my Numa, so probably definitely wear Numa next year again also. 2020 like is kind of the start of also not just a new year but a new decade, which just like came to my mind like some days ago, which was like, you're right, it is a new decade. It's like the 2020s starting now with the 2010 ending. Like I think last decade was definitely one of the most significant ones in my life, because you know I studied, I found my first jobs, I like got to know my best friends in cosplay. I started like traveling around the world with like 2 times in Japan, 3 times in America, also in England, and a lot of changes through my fashion. Like I was so much into Gyaru fashion around that time, which is a very significant fashion style from Japan, which I'm not into anymore. I mean, I like to look at Gyarus anymore, and I like to remember what I did, but I won't do any Gyaru style really anymore, I think. So a lot of changes through that decade. And in the next video I definitely want to give you like a brief like look into my plans for 2020, especially cosplay wise. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And until then I definitely wish you a nice like ending of the year, whether you are going to work again or you just still have vacation. Yeah, definitely may the force be with you, and see you real soon. Bye!